While I laid there sprawled out on the garage floor trying to refocus, I found myself staring at a code. Not the Da Vinci Code, but a code. A code mounted into the side of the tyre. Yeah, I know, we're all familiar with it. It's the Tire Designation code. A thought crossed my mind. I don't truly understand everything about what those letters and numbers mean. So once I managed to pull myself up off the floor, even more questions started running through my mind. What does 78W mean? I mean, that's really random. Or that Z. Or is that Z? Should I install a wider tyre? Would that give me more grip? I mean, apparently it does. Is my rear tyre on backwards? How can I be sure they installed it correctly? I should be able to check these things, right? Is there a grippier tyre than the Metzler Road Tech that I'm currently using? If only there was something like a road legal slick. Something that us, the weekend warriors, can throw into a corner with some serious confidence. And then it dawned on me. I realised I need to match my tyres not just to my bike, but to my riding style. That would give me more control. I said control? Sorry, he's new. So it's not just about the bike and the terrain you're going over or the type of tarmac you ride on most of the time. I needed to make sure my tyres match my riding style. Unfortunately, even though I worked in a tyre factory in my 20s, I had to admit to myself I didn't actually know that much about the Tire Designation. Oops. So of course with tyre selection I need to think more about how I actually ride most of the time. But I really need to research this a little bit more myself. This Tire Designation thing is like a whole language on its own. And like with many languages, it's a little bit inconsistent. So if you, like me, are not sure what every single bit of that Tire Designation means, then join me on a little journey of investigation and my ultimate tyre pick for the R NineT. For some reason, manufacturers want to make it as convoluted as possible by using 3 different numbering systems, by combining 2 different measurement units in the same designation. Yeah, crazy, right? They use metric and imperial, and they've got 3 systems. They've got alphanumeric, numeric, and metric. Alphanumeric are often used for cruisers. Numeric are used mostly for old motorcycles, so it doesn't fit for the 9T as well. But then they've got metric. Metric is what they've got on the modern motorcycles, which includes, of course, our R NineT. So we can just focus on metric for now. For example, 180/55 ZR17 73W. That's the size of your tyre you get on your R NineT when it comes straight out of the factory. It's a standard sports bike tyre. But in this tyre designation, you've not only got alpha and numeric characters, but you've also got an imperial measurement and a metric measurement. Confused? I was, so I decided to start digging on the internet to understand the code. 180 is the tyre width, going from one side of the tyre to the other. 55 is the aspect ratio. It's 55% of what the diameter of the tyre was, so 55% of 80 is the height of the sidewall. Z, or Z, is the speed rating. Tyres with a maximum speed rating of 186 miles per hour or 300 kilometers per hour have a Z rating. It's required by all manufacturers at that speed to have the Z rating on the tyre. Tyres that have a maximum speed rating of 149 miles per hour, 240 kilometres, may have the Z rating on the tyre, but it's not actually mandatory. The R on the tyre represents the construction type, and the R stands for radial, as opposed to BIAS PLY. The radial is mostly used in performance-based tyres, like on the R NineT. But what is this BIAS PLY, and what's the difference between radial and BIAS PLY? BIAS PLY runs from the bead on one side of your tyre to the bead on the other side of the tyre. And if you're wondering what the bead is the hard bit that goes round the inside of your tyre, the diameter of your tyre, and attaches to the rim, whereas radial doesn't work like that. And BIAS PLY has more material because of that versus the radial type of ply. Because of the extra material, it makes the sidewalls really stiff, which is great for adventure style tyres as opposed to sports bikes. So you do still see this in adventure style heavy motorcycle tyres. But they do run hotter, and that's why they're not used on sports bikes, because of course you're not doing 300 kilometers an hour or 250 kilometers an hour for a high period of time on your adventure bike. You can see why BIAS PLY is not so good for sports bikes, and why we've got radial ply on the R NineT when it actually leaves the factory. The radial ply, because it's got less material, it runs cooler and lasts longer. It's got better durability. Radial tyres are great if you're going out for a long motorcycle ride down a motorway for a long period of time at a high speed, or if you're going out for a track day. Radial tyres won't absorb as much heat as what BIAS PLY would, because there's less material inside the tyre. So now we come to the 17. Now the number 17 is actual diameter from the inside of the tyre from one side to the other, and that is measured in inches.
What?
So here on the diameter of the tyre they use an imperial measurement, whereas for the width of it they use a metric. It's crazy. Let's go. Moving on to the next part of breaking the code. So what does the 73W mean? Well, let's look at the 73. The 73 isn't a measurement. It's not inches, it's not centimetres, it's not an imperial metric measurement. What it is an index, a load index. It's the maximum weight that that tyre can take. The speed rating of W is the maximum rating for the load index specified, the load index being 73, and that equates to 168 miles per hour or 270 kilometres per hour. There you go, we've cracked the tyre designation code, and there's more on tyres coming soon. If you like this video, please click the like button down below and subscribe. In the meantime, have a look at this video, and I'll see you out there somewhere.